Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Shreyas Kulkarni and I am the chairperson of IEEE student branch at Bosco Institute of Technology, Mumbai. I would like to request our principal, Dr. Prasanna Nambiar, to kindly address the gathering. Ma'am, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm extremely happy to be a part of this webinar, which is on emerging trends post-COVID 2019. I understand that we have a whole set of very enthusiastic participants and that a large number of our participants are students. And that's very interesting. That's very exciting. Everyone is trying to organize a webinar. Everyone is trying to talk to us about what the trends are going to be after the end of this lockdown period and after the end of this pandemic. Well, the truth is that the end doesn't seem to be in sight. So we really do not know what is going to be happening in the future. It's almost like gazing into a crystal ball and trying to figure out what is happening. Okay. Now, this reminds me of a few things. One is that whenever I address my students of the first year of engineering, which I do when they join the campus, or I address my students of the final year of engineering when they are leaving the campus, I often talk to them about the VUCA world. And I think that's a terminology that most of you would be familiar with. VUCA. Everyone knows V stands for volatility. U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, and A stands for ambiguity. So we say that there is a VUCA world which is out over there, which is going to come. And how do we prepare ourselves to handle or to participate in a VUCA world? Imagine I have been talking about this to my students, and today the situation is that the VUCA world is already there at our doorstep. It has reached, it has arrived without giving us any notice, without giving us any warning. It has landed over there, and it is asking us, okay, what have you done to prepare for this kind of a world? And the sad truth is that we haven't really done much. We've been talking about it, but we never thought that it would happen so suddenly. Therefore, my dear friends, I want to talk to you about how do you handle yourselves, handle your careers, handle your life when you are in a VUCA environment. And let me tell you that it is not a very easy task, because let us take the first case of volatility. Volatility is an indication of instability, and you know how scared we are of any kind of instability. Imagine that you were writing a 12th standard maths paper and you found that the format of the paper was different. It wasn't the same format which was repeated over years. Can you imagine the hue and cry that is created? Parents, students, politicians, everybody jumps onto the bandwagon, which only says that we are so comfortable with stable situations that instability is something that we are really, really scared of. We don't want to be a part of an unstable world or an unstable world. And the next world that we are getting into is going to be full of instabilities. So how do we prepare ourselves for these kind of instabilities? One is, of course, by listening to people who have a lot of experience in the field, who will talk to you about what are the changes that are going to happen post-COVID-19. And we have some very, very eminent speakers who are going to be discussing this with you. So I would suggest that, you really pay attention, take down notes as they talk to you. But let me give you my a little bit of advice from my side. I believe that the way to handle any kind of volatility, any kind of uncertainty and complexity is to be resilient. And resilience needs to be developed at 3 levels. One is personal physical resilience. That means, to encounter any kind of challenge, any kind of uncertainty, any kind of volatility, you need to be physically prepared for that, which means you need to have the right kind of health. So a very healthy lifestyle, good eating habits, exercising. These are all going to be extremely important. And you will find that during the COVID-19 pandemic videos that we watch, practically every person is talking to us about it. So this is going to be very, very important. So one is your physical resilience. The second one is your emotional resilience, which also talks about your attitude. You need to be more welcoming to change. You need to be open to taking risks. You need to be open to being disrupted, because now disruption is going to become a norm. It is going to come without taking any permission from you. It is just going to land at your doorstep. It's going to change your entire world overnight. So disruptions are bound to happen, and the only way we can do that is to be able to have an open mind as far as disruptions are concerned, and this needs a lot of training. So be open to changes, be open to disruptions which are going to be happening. And the third level at which you need to build resilience, and which is very, very important for you, is resilience at the professional level. And when I talk about resilience at the professional level, I think one aspect of professional resilience is the aspect of learning itself. Learning cannot be unidimensional. You know, any profession that you take, any skill that you decide to learn, it cannot be unidimensional. Let me give you an example. Take cooking as a skill, and I'm sure many of you must have probably participated in this. So when you look at cooking as a skill, if there could be people who are able to cook as long as they have the recipe in front of them, they have the ingredients, they have all the measurements. So given a recipe, given the ingredients, they are able to bring out a very, very interesting dish. But the moment some of the ingredients are not there, they are at a loss. They do not know what to substitute it with. Okay, so you need to know where to bring in those substitutes from. The third aspect is that you might, there are people who say, okay, I don't even want a recipe. I know how to cook something because I know how the ingredients are going to taste and so on and so forth. So all of you who've been watching MasterChef know how this skill has to be mastered. So when you learn something like cooking, you can either be a unidimensional chef or you can be multidimensional. And the same happens with learning. You become a unidimensional learner when your learning is only for the purpose of writing an examination or probably attending an interview or passing an interview. But you become a multidimensional learner when you use your skills, you hone your skills to be able to identify problems, to be able to work on problems, to be able to understand how you can evolve multiple solutions for a given problem. And I think my advice as the principal of an institute and as an educator is that try to be a very good learner and try to be a multi-dimensional learner. Try to add as many dimensions as you can to learning. And with that, I would like to wish you all a very happy and fruitful interaction during the series of webinars that you have. I am thankful to each of the speakers who has decided to spend their time in talking to all of us. I am very, very proud of my faculty team and my student team that has put this webinar together. And I'm sure you will be able to learn a lot out of it. And my advice is try to make the most out of these interactions that you have. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Today, we are having a webinar on emerging technology trends post-COVID-19, presented by Mr. Ganapathy Venkatchalam. Just a little request before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box on your Zoom or WhatsApp control panel. I'll bring them up at the end of the presentation during the question and answer round. Now, without any further ado, we will turn our time over to our speaker. Our presenter today, Mr. Ganapathy Venkatchalam, has more than 17 years of experience in technology, IT, security, and ITES sector, majorly focusing on developing international markets such as Israel, Australia, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Also with a solid background of capital and debt markets. He is a business and technical advisor at ETA Group of Companies. He is the former CEO of Microtechnology Ltd and an advisor to several other companies like JETMO STELL, SRG Enterprises, and many more. He has an engineering degree from Mumbai University, MBA degree from NMIMS, and master's degree from University of North Dakota. He has also successfully got into understanding with organizations like Mitsubishi and expanded the business in 40 countries globally. Exposure to global business, culture, and successfully driven teams of more than 1,000+ people in 4 continents. He has successful tie-up with strategic media partners, brand valuations, and media presence across the country and social media. He has a strong analytical and leadership skills coupled with practical approach to problem solving, which enables him to communicate complex concepts to a variety of audiences and to work effectively with different people, culture, and situations. His local and global experience gives a rare dual perspective that lends integrity and pragmatism to everything that he undertakes. Now, I would like to request Sir to kindly take over the session. Sir, please.
Yeah, thank you, one and all. And I think it's a very insightful overview about myself. I'm hearing, but thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity. I hope everybody is safe and healthy. In this tough situation. Um, the irony of life is, of all the things, a virus has brought us together here. You know, can you believe it? But it has given us some opportunity to learn things, like the principal madam mentioned, to evolve ourselves, to kind of look at ways in which we can deal with this situation and come up with answers. Well, the answers aren't easy, like the solution, all like every problem has a solution. This problem also has a solution, but what is the solution? Well, we are all here to figure out, as we are speaking about it, in the whole world, to see how we can come out of this in this multidimensional aspect of situation. So today's presentation is more oriented towards what kind of issues we have been facing. If you look at history, as a humankind in last 100 years, there have been situations, there have been various such scenarios where we had pandemics, we had wars, we had calamities, catastrophes, and we have successfully passed through those phases. And with all probability, we as humans would also successfully pass through this phase. So it's very important to also go back a little bit in the history and understand how and which way we have been able to, address those situations in those times. So if you look at history in a whole perspective, we've been having multiple layers of issues or situations like this, right? From you go way back to 1920s, to 1930s, to early 2000s, to even 2008, and now where we are. And every time the situation was different. And probably during that time, this was supposed to be the most fatal or the most catastrophic event of that generation, of that time. But we successfully passed through it. And not only we successfully came out of it, but also there have been industries, solutions, or probably technologies evolved out of those situations, which we believe have been useful not only at those times, but even today. And that's the most beautiful thing about any problems. A problem always has a solution. It's just you need to dive deep into it, understand it, and then probably it comes out. And it just doesn't have one person finding a solution, it's a collective effort. And if you look at all the problems in the history so far, it hasn't been one person, one individual, or one organization finding a solution for it. It's been the entire human race as a whole trying to come out and being able to emerge successful because of the unity of working together. If you talk about Great Depression, the fall of stock market in the 1920s, it was a big thing at those times. Wall Street just crashing like anything, and GDP is diving deep into 15 to 20% downgrade. I mean, people didn't know what to do. But there were industries which came out, there were solutions which made people happy. Like the Disney, what we see today, has emerged from those eras. And it still has been successful, running good, and people still enjoy Disney. You like to go, be happy, go to Disney. So things are always from two perspectives. If you look at a problem, there is a solution. But at the same time, those solutions will help you not only stay for today, but even for tomorrow. During the World War II, you had lot of manufacturing industries suddenly changing their dimensions and had to be used for what the current situation was to support the warfare activity. If you look at Detroit like a city, which is predominantly an automobile hub, many of the factories were being turned into making, many of the support structures for military. It survived. It developed new innovations like Jeep and many other automobile things what we are using today. So there is an evolution. Every situation evolves, and as you evolve, you feel that, oh, today you are much better than earlier. Same thing if you look at the 2000, probably IT industry was almost about to kind of stop, like a standstill, and people didn't know what would happen if the clock moved to 2000, called as Y2K. But somewhere down the line, India stood up. India came up, and India IT industry stand still and say that, hey, we have a solution, we can address it. There we go. We came out, and now India has the largest IT service industry contributing to the GDP today. Same thing in 2008, the subprime crisis of the real estate crashes, over leveraging. But you know what? That changed the world a lot with e-commerce and many other emerging technologies in online. And well, we have Facebook as one of the strong emerging technology company which came out of that. So it's not new for us. I mean, I can go back in history further, but it's not new for us that challenges are coming. If there is no challenge, if there is no problems, people are not, like principal said, resilient, strong, survival of the fittest. So this is a problem for us to think and say, hey, we are strong, we can come out of this. What are the outcomes? What technologies would come? What industries would come? Well, that's something with future we'll all see how it goes. But I certainly believe that there is a great scope for all of us to come together and look at it. Because if you look at it from a whole different perspective, many of the companies have started historically from a different angle, but the resilient and the strength they have shown, they have survived. Survival is the key. If you look at companies like Nokia, Sony, Siemens, Motorola, to name the few, like HP, Hewlett Packard, their history goes way back, way beyond the kind of crisis we are talking about. They started off with something like Nokia started off by making wood pulp mill. During tough times, they even sold footwears. They went into mobile phone very late of their history, almost 100 years later, where they started doing phones, but they survived. They survived all the crises we are speaking about, and they emerged to be the strongest industry leaders in their dimension. We are fans of all these companies, not because of their products, but because of their culture, because of their endurance to be strong, to survive. Siemens, 1847, they were one of the first pioneers to establish telecommunication between Kolkata and Germany at that point of the time. So if you look at Sony, started more like a radio repair shop. Where are we today? Sony is a household name today, and they also have gone through multifaceted crisis situation. Hewlett Packard, for all the names we use as one of the predominant one, started by simple like a precision audio oscillator, which they developed it. Not until 30 years down the lane, they started doing personal computers. So all the companies here rely on the culture of being strong, innovative, and to handle the situation. We have the same thing here. As a student, as an individual, and as an organization, we need to handle the situation, come up with innovation, and innovation is one of the key things. Innovation takes you a long way, and innovation comes with circumstances. Innovation comes with opportunities. Innovation comes with threat. Innovation comes with a problem, with a crisis. So we are in the dimension to come up with innovation. Call it a disruption, call it a evolution, technological change, organizational change, behavioral change. But there is certainly change, which we are all going to experience with this whole situation. So change is very key. If you don't change, you perish. You can easily be the strongest of the strongest company, best of the best technology. But still, if you do not adapt to today's situation, you do not see a problem, you do not find a solution, you don't move towards what is required for the industry and market, it doesn't matter. You might be the strongest emerging company, you might be the strongest existing company, but you can no longer be there in the game. Somebody else might come and take over what you've been doing. Like we have been seeing the examples of Kodak. I mean, it's been one of the most legacy-oriented company that we have all seen using cameras and for photographs and everything. But they couldn't continue the evolution into the latest technology, adapting to the latest technology. The main thing is fear of change. It doesn't matter how strong a history you have, but if you have fear of change, somebody else will come and take where you are. An Indian example of a company called Mosaic. We all know maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, we've been using all the CDs and pen drives and many different IT things from them. But for some reason, again, change. How can you be without adapting to change? That's another case study. So very important lesson for every student or institution to be prepared for change. Change might be drastic. It could mean many different things, but be adaptive, be open, take the viewpoints, don't be closed, don't just think from one dimension. And for all that matters, if you're open and if you can involve various different ideas and you come up with innovation, you come up with what's required and you're surviving. Now, as a student, how do you manage this situation of, let's say, moving into the next step of where you are? Because we all know that everybody is groping in the dark. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody is sure how things will be, how the education system will be, how the examination system will be, how the classroom system will be. Many policies have been thought of. Many things have been not only in India, internationally. I was just coincidentally speaking to one of my friends who runs a college in US, United States, and they just started off this Monday, not in New York, but in Florida. And one of the things we were discussing, I said, predominantly majority of the education has been moved to online, because it's now, initially, maybe a few years ago, online was an option. It was more like an alternative. Now, from something being an alternative, it starts getting into a mainstream. And that's a very interesting way of looking at change. So, as students, how can we handle this change? Well, every different types of students, whether you're in high school or thinking to get into engineering, or probably have got into engineering, probably in the process of graduation, or probably graduated, you have to look what's best for me, looking at the situation and address those issues. Somebody like in high school kids, relax, easy, nothing to worry about it. Look at various options of certifications, look at things where you can just understand basics of what's happening. You might want to take a drastic decision, relax, think, talk to people, get yourself understood about the market. Engineering, yes, you have to be serious. You have to know what's going on in the industry to know which industry you should be. Said that all industries are good. Nothing is going to go bad. There was a time when people felt constructions might not go up big because IT is coming up. You know what? But for all, construction still exists, infrastructure still exists. So engineering will exist. It's all about how we adapt to new technologies. So all this field might have new technologies coming into them, new way of learning, like automation, new way of involving IT, everything becoming E, because E is a very common word, online, internet. That's what it will become. If you're entering a college, start putting your aptitude, your communication and technical skills so you're better equipped to handle this in your time. Now, if you are in the process of graduation, get additional skills which will help you into the market, like getting into the latest things like artificial intelligence, automation, knowing about them. What does it look like for your industry, for your engineering program? So you're pretty much prepared to know how to handle when you go to the market. Well, it's not easy, but there are tools, there are things available. Get into that. If you're graduation, well, endurance, be aggressive, be more focused, passion. I'm sure there are people, there are organizations which would need, or for all that matters, you can be an entrepreneur. But it's all about following your dream. As a graduate student, follow your dream, follow your passion. And that's what will make difference in this tough time, because we have seen people who follow the passion, follow the dreams, will always emerge to be the leaders. And this is not something new that we are hearing, right? Follow your dreams. Following dreams has always existed. And just to take a few companies we are all familiarized with, like FedEx, was simple college assignment, a kid making a college assignment, by all probabilities even ending up with a C grade for that assignment, But still, today he created an organization which today for all matters is a key in logistics globally. Dell, well, it's a household name in terms of computers. Just thinking about a simple thing like a personal computer going directly to customer. Simple ideas making difference. Dropbox, again, a very simple idea. Two students were just fed up of too many email exchanges. It's a simple idea. I'm getting too much email with huge attachments. What do? Create something like Dropbox. So it all matters is innovation, problems, and solutions. Today's situation is the same, nothing different. Your mindset and your view to handle it makes a whole lot difference. Facebook, I don't have to go about it again. Same story. The interesting one is something like Celonis, which has come up off lately. It's a German company, but just like a college project. They started off by creating a club, and they understood that there are a lot of issues in processes. Companies used to maintain huge logs, and there wasn't a system which was there to solve it. Came up with process mining, boom, they're a unicorn today. And still, even today's situation, in COVID or post-COVID, processes are going to be the key. And all the organizations we are talking today, whether it be a Dropbox or Celonis or Facebook or FedEx or Dell, will still be there emerging as leader, because what they are addressing is not for today's problems, for the problems which we are ever going to face, like logistic issues, handling huge amount of data. Social media is part of our lifestyle. So live your college dreams, follow your passion, follow your dream. That's what would lead you to where we are today. And that's what has given us to the world in terms of new technologies and new companies. We all follow, we all like, and we want to join them for that matter. So you never know, you create something and people would want to be a part of it. So follow your dream. Education sector in today's situation needs a lot of industry collaboration. And that's something which we have seen traditionally, but more during this tough situation. One such initiative which I'm going to talk about is the Ericsson-UNESCO collaboration. It's a very interesting thing to note about that. 1.2 billion students have just been sitting at home finding a way what they can do next. What is the solution? How do we keep ourselves, when is the exams? Simple thing is to do is to engage them. Simple thing is to give them access to certain tools and technologies they can learn during this time. And these tools and technologies doesn't necessarily mean has to be for a certain grade of people or highly skilled people. You can have it for various skills people. So what they have done is free for all program, right from your high school to even an engineer. Create digital skills portal, create teaching AI. Now, Ericsson Educate program. Now, all these things not only help students, but there is also a program wherein virtual reality for teacher training. So even educational institute or teachers can really get into the dimension that how we are going to go to the next phase of what we are facing is virtual reality. Because more we think about it, more we are virtual. Today we are virtual. I'm not seeing you, you're not seeing me, but still we are talking, we are communicating. You're listening, I'm saying. So virtual reality will be the future. Now, as we move virtual, how to handle virtual reality? People want to see emotions. When you sit in front, they want to see emotions. They want to see facial expressions. How to bring training in virtual reality? It's a whole new subject. So these are the things where some of the industry leaders are getting into. And it's very imperative. I mean, it might be in emerging stage, some might be in advanced stage, but it's all about participating, understanding and seeing how collaborations can happen. And today is a time of collaborations. So I suggest that many of the students see what's up there and what the industry and technology and companies are coming out for students, for educational institutes, and try to see how it can help you, abate you for your future. Try to get into it and use it. And I believe some of these things, personally, if I were you, I would just grab it, because this is something which is required. In my dimension, when we didn't have so much online, so much internet, so much amount of data transfer, so much amount of speed. So everything is evolved and changed. So we feel that's a great scope for something like this. So Ericsson and UNESCO have done something very unique, and grabbing this opportunity makes a lot of sense for many students who would like to know what it is. And similar such things have been done by Salesforce, Cisco, and many other organizations. This is just an example to show how education sector has been addressed by some of the industry leaders. What are the future focus? Because today's topic is more oriented towards emerging trends. So when this opportunity of talking had come to me, and was asked to speak, I said, what would be the topic? I said, see, the topic which can really help somebody is to know what lies ahead. Everybody knows the past. Few people know the present. Nobody knows the future. We all try to figure it out as we go. But in the process, we learn something. We learn new things. We evolve new things. And today, industry, where we are, which is the future of what we are seeing, many things lie ahead of us. And it's strongly emerging as we speak and being adapted into our day-to-day life, into our day-to-day way of working. 5G. 5G is just an experiment which started maybe 5 months ago, 6 months ago. But now, with the kind of data, speed, and agility required in communication, it's but bound to happen in near future. 5G gets adapted quickly because majority of the people today, like we said, are moving into virtual world. With virtual world, your communication has to be top notch. By all means, 5G is up there. So futuristically speaking, we might have all these technologies fast forwarding and coming quicker to us. Voice user interface, contactless. You have to be contactless post COVID. You have to use voice interfaces. You have to talk. You have to talk and activate things. There has been LSR, we know all about it, but now things is beyond just at home. We will see voice user interfaces being more common. Artificial intelligence, right? We've heard of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and automation. It's a buzzword that everybody loves to talk about it. But more than that, now it's something which we have to know about it, like your thermal screening. Immediately you can detect who's got higher temperature while walking. Thermal screening has become a common thing now in many of the crowded places using artificial intelligence. Blockchain. Well, blockchain, how it's been coming handy. We all know, we heard of blockchain. Infection tracking. Blockchain has been used extensively in today's situation for infection tracking. Automation. Well, you want to make automation more quicker and more faster, and also it reduces your cost because automation helps reduction of people-to-people contact, obviously. So these technologies are emerging stronger and quicker and more aggressive than what we thought earlier. Cloud computing. We all know cloud computing. We've been doing that, but it's now because everything is in cloud, all data moving into cloud. You want to work from home, access. Cloud computing has also been emerging very powerful. Virtual reality, augmented reality, Internet of Things. These are some things, again, we've been talking about connecting things. But now, with people being in different locations, this is something that we see will be part of every small actions we do. Last but not the least, cybersecurity. All your data, all your information is online. Today, everybody talks about security, hacking, your information, everything becomes digital. Your payment is digital. You don't want to use cash any longer. How do you secure yourself? Cybersecurity. So that's something which we all have to know. Security is very important. So cybersecurity is there and will stay and has to given more impetus during this tough time because you want to have your privacy and protect your data. Now, businesses around this technology have already started using and transforming the way we see online shopping and robot delivery. Some part of the world already sees it as a reality. And they use this, and new norm is no longer trying to go to shop and start buying yourself, but to use robots because it brings in safety, it's automated, it's much more secure. Look like online entertainment. It's tough to be at home for 2 months, 3 months without anything. Well, people have started moving everything online, including museums, virtual tours of international heritage. Even to some extent, people are trying to get married online. So everything is getting digital, online. That's something, a revolution. You would like to go to Greece and see what's happening, but now you're happy seeing it online and feeling how the museums are, how the national heritages are. Also something which has come up with all this thing is remote work culture, because you no longer have access to your office. You no longer can go there, see what's happening. Remote work from home. You do your cooking, you still work. It's again enabled from unique technologies that businesses are adopting. Virtual private networks, VPNs, VoIP, we are using right now. Work collaboration tools, people from different locations collaborating with each other. Facial recognition technologies. How do you know somebody is present? Use facial recognition. Same thing goes to the other side when we say about automation is using robotics and drones. So the future of manufacturing, monitoring, and control lies in some of these technologies. So all the technologies have two sides to it, right? The positive side as well as the abusive side. But we need to look at the positive side today and see that how we can adapt to our benefit and to emerge as a leader and be used to it. So when you talk about robotics and drones, it's been something which we never thought of, has come up suddenly into our way of how we've been handling this situation. It's been used for sanitation, in certain countries and hospitals where they come up and use robots. So manual interfaces are reduced. Now, you want to go out, but you can't. Use drones to carry your dogs. Innovation. Challenging, but innovation. But what are the issues which we face with this kind of technologies is pretty much embracing this technology itself. Training. High skill training is required. How do you undertake training remotely? These are some of the challenges. But yes, there is a lot of job creation. A lot of more such innovations has to be done. More modulation has to be done, because nothing is perfect. Because this, what we are talking here, is all has been done in a select segment of utilization. What happens when it gets mass scaled globally, or even for that matter in a specific country in different sectors? So those are the things which one has to think about, how adaptive you can be when these things get scaled up. That comes the manufacturing, because manufacturing is all about scaling. VUCA. I'm going to take a leap from what Principal Madam says, right? Volatility, different crisis situation. You see the buying behavior change. There is inherent thing that there is panic buying, people doing things which you are not bound to do. And this create a lot of structural change in manufacturing, because you no longer can predict. You might want to produce something X, but your requirement is Y. You have planned your production for Y, but your demand is X. People pattern and customer behavior is very important for manufacturing to predict its manufacturing and develop and go around product development. But with today's situation, and obviously this situation laying around for some more time, buying behavior is very critical, and predicting buying behavior is very difficult. We just have seen in the last 2-3 months, we go to buy a grocery, go to buy something, and there are stocks, some things which we don't want, there is available, but still we go and buy it. Something which we do not want or something which we want is not available. So those are the challenges typically a manufacturing industry is going to face. Now what happens? Disrupted supply chain. You're trying to make a product, some part of the supply chain is available, some is not available. Now this increases the operational cost, because you have to manage with something else which you do not want to do. Now, in the overall process, can you improve your R&D? Can you improve your productivity, but still integrating those, be able to produce it and launch those products in the market? This calls for a whole new reconfiguring of manufacturing. And that's what manufacturing challenge we have today, reconfiguration of manufacturing, integration of new tools, new technologies. So we can adapt ourselves to this challenge, because manufacturing is the heart of our economy. Any economy for that matter, even though we are a service-driven economy, majorly the small and medium enterprises, which is the heart of our labor class or middle class income, relies heavily on manufacturing. So to put it in a nutshell, what are the things that manufacturing future lies ahead of us? Manufacturing traditionally has been in India a very labor-intensive, labor-dependent business. But now process automation will become a norm. You have to drive everything using process and minimize the intervention of human. We have process automation in certain segments like automotive and energy segments, but all segments has to start adapting to process automation. Now, what does it do? Standard practice, it reduces your errors, save cost, and improves time to market. But in difficult times, what it does is, like today, it will eliminate what we want to do, things like social distancing, minimizing human interventions, so that majority of, because today you have a big issue of how many people can be working at one time simultaneously. There is a estimation of only 25 to 30% people can work. So with this kind of a thing, you would be dependent on process automation. Digitizing the operations remotely, you can manage it. Even product and service innovations has to be brought in, because the moment you digitize it, there will be many things which will bring innovations. Like we have seen in the case of medical, there is a sample collected, then you do a connected lab, so all labs are connected, and using that you're able to give test results in real time. So connected systems become more common as we talk about service innovation. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, to be able to talk to machines, to be able to understand problem, remotely troubleshoot it. These are the things which will be more common as we talk of the manufacturing processes. Now, how does the whole Indian ecosystem has evolved during this tough time in last few months? Some things which has emerged, which wasn't very common, was home healthcare, which was coming up, has become more common. Home testing. Now everybody is concerned how their health is. Typically, you would want go to a clinic, go to a doctor, do that. Home testing is very common. By all statistics, 36% reach has happened in this last 3 months, which was less than 2%. E-doctors. Doctors are available online. I don't think anybody in their lifetime would have used major e-doctor apart from making phone calls. But now, for everything you want to do an e-doctor, and there are companies, technologies available to facilitate it. Information management. Information is key. What you hear, what you understand, and what you know will drive the future. There has been effort to do something in that dimension to keep up to date. And some of the apps and technologies have come up, like even an initiative by government, something called Arogya Setu. Blockchain. Blockchain has been predominantly used, like I was saying, for infection tracing, because infection tracing is one of the important things. So blockchain was more for a banking and financial institution application. Now it's suddenly come into medical. So innovation spreads, and adapting to those innovation is very important. Information management. There have been early warning systems being developed for information dissemination and management. Public hygiene. Now, in public hygiene is critically managed, has to be a very understatement, but if you don't manage it, you will have situations where it spreads. So technologies have to come. You cannot have manual interventions for public hygiene. Drone sanitation has been one of the things which have been used. In Mumbai, they've been using drones to monitor public gatherings in certain locations where you can't go, crowded locations. So monitoring public planning, using drones to address, to warn them. So technology comes in. So Indian ecosystem, to an extent, have been started using technologies, which, because initially drone was something which wasn't very common, even though there were some regulatory issues and all. But now, with the current situations, they want to think of getting drones into the system for every actions where drone can be utilized. Retail space. Now, if you look at retail space, it's predominantly been online. Lean supply chain has been one of the critical aspects which will emerge out of today's thing, because there have been requirements where today, because of the supply chain issues and logistic issues, how quicker you can reach to the customer. So the evolving thing has to be from the farmer or from the producer directly to the customer, lean supply chain. And that's how things are evolving. And there have been companies and technologies working on that. real time, bring real time solutions. You know, you do something today, you order something today, you get it tomorrow. You order something in the morning, get it in the evening, or you order something, you get it within an hour. That's the kind of speed in which things are evolving. And remember, before this, the amount of people who used to do that were predominantly less because everybody preferred to go and do it. But now people do not have a choice. So the amount of threshold these technologies are facing, so the major evolution has been to expand the scalability because the bandwidth, simultaneously 10 million people requesting for it. So those are the adaptive changes that retail technologies have taken into consideration when they talk about online business. So being part of a change, initially we had issues with some of these technology platforms in the initial part of lockdown where they couldn't handle the kind of traffic. They have emerged well. New companies have come up who are offering much better and much effective access for this thing. So overall, if you look at Indian ecosystem, the accessibility has increased in some of these segments, and the numbers here speak for themselves. And going forward, we believe such new emerging things will come up where many more such technologies and ecosystems will work together. How has the global response been, and what is the global response we are expecting? I mean, India ecosystem has predominantly focused on medical and healthcare during this tough time and supporting. So that's what we have seen in last few months. But globally, what are the things which you're saying? Sustainability. You know, we believe we all traditionally it's seen that oh there's something developed in some part of the world called China and it's transferred all over, but I think we all are equally part of it. We all are equally responsible to it because we take care of our environment, we take care of our surroundings. We need to feel that this is something somewhere we also owe ourselves to clean the mess. And that's when you talk of sustainability. You need to look at things which can be sustaining. Look at green, look at non-usage of fossil fuels, look at things. So everything is moving towards sustainability. That's the global response towards some of these pandemic problems. Digital, stronger digital economy. The more digital economy, the more freedom to buy, consume, and do things. Robotics. Again, robotics is something which we've been hearing for 30, 40 years, but it's not something very common. But in last 2 months, we've suddenly seen that China had to come up and start not only trial, but launch driverless vehicle as taxis to avoid human intervention. Companies in US have to start doing robotic and drone deliveries. Now, these are changes which people didn't wait. They had to bring in today to address the issues, address the situation. Now, all these things calls for something which is more exciting and enterprising, is into the dimension of supply chain 4.0. We've been till now looking at supply chain 3.0. Now, what is supply chain 4.0? Supply chain 4.0 is all about working with this innovative and integrating technology. World Economic Forum has been preparing for this a year back. But now with this kind of an crisis around us, we might have to fast forward it and probably be making it available in real time. So supply chain 4.0 will come up very soon, and that is in the process of making life little easier as far as handling the situation is concerned, integrating of IoT, integrating of artificial intelligence. So before I move into the next part, which is closing my conversation, I would want you to see a small video of what supply chain 4.0 is all about and how the world has to unite together. Just
Yes, sir, we are live, sir.
yeah. Can you play the video?
Yeah, yeah. Start.
Yeah, please. And make it full screen.
It's a fourth industrial revolution. It's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. It's changing not only what we are doing, it's changing who we are.
It's really the notion of digital technology pervasively impacting every walk of life in every vertical industry on all parts of the globe.
Whether it's information technology and the acceleration we see in artificial intelligence, a lot is happening.
Society and how we're going to live is being defined right now.
The speed is mind-boggling. What I'm particularly concerned about is how little the world is prepared.
Harnessing this revolution requires the involvement of all stakeholders, from public and private sectors to academia and civil society. The World Economic Forum Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution Network ensures that the development and application of emerging technologies benefits both people and the planet. It is a network of centers for scalable impact, with locations in the United States, Japan, India, and China, bringing together stakeholders to identify the impacts of these technologies, co-design innovative governance protocols and policy frameworks, and pilot them with partners around the world.
If we are not innovative, if we're not creative enough, it will be very difficult to survive in this century.
Humans and machines are assisting each other, augmenting each other with skills.
Humanity itself will be changed with this superintelligence, and we are at the doorstep of that era.
The technologies available today will impact and change healthcare forever.
52% of the encounters with our primary care physicians were handled virtually. Just a massive change.
The network will work closely to share research, analysis, and learning, and help design new technologies in ways that respect societal values.
It's where innovation is happening, about how we guide this revolution.
We can solve many of the social issues through the digital technologies.
My hope is that we have a robust discussion for how this can truly help our world solve some of the hard-pressed challenges that we have today.
Together, we can shape a future that truly benefits and empowers people.
The world has changed. We can never ever go back to yesterday.
Great, thank you. So this is what we are into today, innovative technologies. See, I know as a student, you will be feeling many of these things are far-sighted or something, how to go about it. See, I've been told most of my life, you can't, or it's impossible. I think you can relate to those toxic and negative predictions. COVID forever has changed our normal. You may feel that this storm will never end and your future is simply bleak. Allow me to be your coach for a moment and tell you that this storm will end and you can make your future bright. We all need to be reminded, in big and small storms, we are capable and equal to the task. Just to close by using a famous quoted statement by Martin Luther King, we must accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope. With that, I thank you all for listening to me and giving an opportunity to talk about emerging technology trends post-COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will go ahead with some questions for now. Just a reminder, please be sure that you type in your questions in your chat box for your WhatsApp questions. Our moderator will filter them and send it to me. Is there anyone who wants to ask the question here on the meeting? Yeah, it looks like we have a few questions. So starting off with the first question, it's asked by a student, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question related to education sector being online. Many universities and such as Stanford, Duke, and so on, and platforms like Coursera, IDX have started offering certificates and degrees. But the problem with these platforms are when a student enrolls for an online certificate, a common question arises that is the degree and certificate, will these certificates add a value to the overall profile? And that's the reason why these platforms have low completion rates. So how online platforms can solve these problems?
I think, like I said, online certifications has been existing. So this is not COVID has created online certifications. Like I mentioned, online certifications have always been an alternative to primary education. People who are busy, working, do not have time, prefer online. But the things have changed now, which means even if you're free, you're busy, your option is to go online, because that's has been the major mode of access, because your other accesses have reduced because of the norms around us. So as far as selecting the courses and those things are concerned, I think many times we come across high-end educational institute, not to name anybody, come up with certifications and courses. First of all, you need to see the relevance of those. Okay. And second thing is you need to see who is undertaking those courses, how well-known those people are, how knowledgeable those people are, and how much duration it is, and how much thing it can really help you for what you want to do. So there are various parameters in which you judge. And ultimately, learning something new is always good, independent of what the subject is. And if it is to your liking, I would suggest to go ahead and do it. The only question is which and what. I think those things you have to discuss with some mentors, somebody who has got some knowledge about those things, and try to resolve it. But I'll highly recommend that any such institutes or professional courses being offered, try to do a little bit of research, due diligence, and pick one or two and then utilize them.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, what do you feel will be the impact of COVID-19 on students in rural areas not having access to communication technologies, or maybe internet also?
Right. I think it's a very good question. Okay. Now, rural India is something which has been, I wouldn't say 100% devoid of internet. Yes, maybe the connectivity has been an issue, but still there are, because you have technologies like remote pump activation for your agriculture and many such things which have been used in rural India. And also tele-education been launched by Government of India, and obviously some governments which has been done in the past. But like I said, right, every problem comes up with a solution and you have to adapt to the solution, which means there will be some amount of investment required, infrastructure required, and obviously there has to be a private come government participation to address it. It just couldn't be a government issue or a private issue. So companies like Google have been trying to address these issues far before this current situation. To an extent, they've been successful, but probably we have to accelerate it quicker so that this can be addressed. So I think a private-public partnership is more required for some issues like this, like rural India. How do you access rural India? So public-private partnership is an answer, because government alone will not be able to, or solely be able to do it. And maybe coming up with innovative technologies, then rural innovation will also be the answer to it. So I believe it's a collaborative effort which will try to help address rural education.
Okay. The next question is, according to you, what are the different marketing strategies for business if recession will happen and market goes down?
Sorry, I missed the last part. What was that?
Uh, if the market goes down and recession happens, what will be the different marketing strategies?
I think, okay, marketing strategies, if you look like, predominantly depends upon the product and the audience whom you're targeting, right? If it's a consumer centric audience, if it's a certain preference audience. But in general, if you look at marketing strategies today, predominantly you are relying on social media, because social media has been a strong component of reaching people. And especially in today's world where everything is becoming online, social media is used, and being more aggressive in social media is very critical. Apart from that, I think if you look at marketing strategy, product oriented understanding, education, those things has to be embedded in marketing, right? Because if you have a specific product which addresses to certain issues, so those things have to be embedded by educating the clients or educating the potential customers. So I would still stick to social media as number one in terms of marketing strategy, apart from word of mouth or any other modes, because in today's situation, you have very limited access. So being digital is the best way as far as marketing strategy is concerned. And second thing is, if you look at marketing strategy, come up with innovative business model, because don't go with standard business model. Come up with innovative business model. Understand your customer. Come up with innovative business model, make it lighter for the wallet of a customer, because everybody is thinking twice to spend it. So think about your business model, make it light, and come up with something which customer can adapt it.
Okay, sir. Next question is, what is an estimated time for India to adapt robotics/, artificial intelligence across the country on a large scale?
Okay, I think this is would be a very okay. Let me answer it like this, right? No technology in general today has been or will be adapted in real time with a flash. So it takes time, because accessibility and also development and modification to Indian economical requirement, because you have to understand that technology which we are talking have to be economical to our liking, because robotics is very easy. It's common in Japan. If you go to Japan, you go to a hotel, it welcomes you. You will have a SoftBank robot saying hello, welcome. So but it's not as easy, because some of those robots which just stands outside a hotel to wish you cost lakhs of rupees. You can't have the same economics here. So if you look at reaching mass level, I think we still are far away from that. But as far as certain industries are concerned, like automobile industry or maybe telecom or many other industries, I think we might see it as soon as in near future to have been, I wouldn't say forcefully, but change. They have to change to this to survive and probably be able to address to the customer requirement. Artificial intelligence, again, I think we have already seen it being integrated in what we are doing. But at the scale, what we want to do, probably it will start with some of the large industries using it, and then probably moving out to smaller segments of it. So if you look at a kind of a number, maybe 2 to 3 years would be a good number, wherein you can say that it's a level of scalability to really know how to perfect and scale it.
Okay, sir. The next question is, what are your views about the new policies of government like going Swadeshi, and how will it impact the market?
Okay, I think I would not talk about any specific government, but I would say that it's always good to boost the domestic economy, independent of the policies, right? Because at this critical time, you need to have your Indian rupee to dollar being very strong. You don't want it to fall much, because the more you import, probably you will have a currency issue, and rupee being more cheaply traded. So as an economy, you always want to rely on your domestic consumption and domestic production. So at least from a forex point of view, and to keep the economical GDP level good, I believe that domestic consumption is important, independent of whether it's COVID or without COVID or anything, because you want also to be as strong as countries like China. Obviously, there are caveats to it, how to develop it, but to be a supporting manufacturing center for world-class companies. So yes, at some point we need to look at this in a much detailed level, but I believe independent of whatever the situation is, we need to promote domestic production and domestic manufacturing as much as possible.
There's one question from the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry requires human-to-human interactions. How would they come out of this crisis that seems to last for a while now?
Okay, I think, okay. See, eventually we will all look at it. We are looking at this as a short term, medium term, and long term. So the issues are not prolonged to a long term issues, right? The issues, we had the case of Spanish flu in the past. We have been having pandemics in the past, the plagues and many other things, right? So we have faced issues, but today we are better equipped because of communication, access to information, and being able to resolve. As far as the entertainment industry is concerned, right? So today people are as much geared to Netflix compared to geared to going to a theater, or as much geared to maybe an Amazon Prime to going and watching maybe a play, you know. So there will be certain amount of effect on them, right? But it will not be an everlasting effect. So temporarily we would be moving our mindset from, it's also a mindset issue, right? So today you go out and you're crowded, you're sitting with 100 people. So you predominantly as a human would not want that. So it's also about your choice. So how can you choose to sit with 100 people almost touching with each other with less than a feet distance, right? So it's also about how you handle the situation. So entertainment industry will have some effect, short-term effect, but on the long run, I think innovation will play a key role, and human interaction, like mentioned, might reduce but not get completely eliminated. So the level of human interaction will get reduced and be using technologies and many things.
Okay, we have one question from the final year students. What can the final year students do in this situation where they have not been placed and after getting their degrees? And is startups their only option, or waiting for jobs can be an option?
Okay, I'll give you one example. Maybe you can relate to it, because see, every question doesn't have one answer. There are multiple answers because it depends upon how one handles it. So I had a friend of mine in 2008. She had done her PhD and everything, and same crisis, no jobs, and people were. So what she did was, she was very good in proposal writing. So because of her PhD and connect with certain universities and people, she started helping for proposal writing. And initially, yes, good, got paid. 2, good, she got paid. So 3, 4 such things she did. And suddenly over a period of today, she is one of the most expert proposal writer working in one of the top-notch, hospitals, looking at their entire grants and everything. So I would say that look at your skills, don't look at the problems, look at your skills, align your skills, and try to see where you can even start, not full-time, part-time, get associated. And that drives a long-term success, because if you just look at a short-term problem, not look long-term, that's also not good. So follow your passion, look at your skills, match your skills with what you can do, and maybe there is an answer to that.
Okay, sir. There's one more question. What do you think are the 5 major skills that a budding engineer must have future for considering after COVID in mind?
I think first of all, if you graduate, you're already skillful. So don't worry about more than that. But in any case, if you look at top 5 skills, I think you have to look from theory to practical. practical application is one of the most important thing that you need to know, how the theory and practice mismatch can be. Sometimes when you're in the education world and you only look everything theoretically, you probably want to look at practical case studies. So get involved in practical case studies and understand it. So probably knowing the practical portion of application is very important. Second thing is trends in your line of engineering. How the trends are and what are the technologies which are coming up and being used. Knowing about your your focus companies where you want to be in your industry. What are they doing? How are they performing? What are the future plans, so you can align yourselves to them. Fourth thing is be a vivid reader, because in this tough times, you just have to be reading. You just have to be reading as much as possible to understand what's happening around you, because every day there is something new innovation, new things happening. So be up to date in terms of innovation. And last but not the least, be strong, because you have to be strong and persistent to get through this, no matter what it is. So I think these are, the paramount 5 things that I could recommend from my side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. One last question. Is it really practical to completely stop trade with China, where it has a big market in case of technology and cheaper options, which are not present in India as of now? So should India? How should India about its use? How should India use its opportunities to the maximum benefit?
Right. See, like I said, I will stay away from making any policy comments, but to just answer in a nutshell, see, it's always about being fair in business, right? As far as China is concerned, the experience of copying, the experience of a trade deficit that India faces with China, there's a huge gap of import-export. And also intellectual property rights, and the last thing is obviously fake products. So not everywhere, but some portion of it. Especially we had these issues of kits, and not only India but other places also. So I think if those issues they can themselves address this internally through whatever policies and structure, I think everybody wants to do business globally, right? Because you just can't just work with one country or one place. Everybody has an opportunity. But you don't want to, in a try of being attracted to an opportunity, you don't want to lose everything. So you just have to be careful. And as long as, like I mentioned, these 3-4 issues they can address this, I think everybody wants to do business with. Nobody don't want to do business. It's just about certain issues that we are facing in terms of business relationship. So if those things can be addressed, not only by us, by other people, I think there is always a scope for much better business.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. It looks like we have covered most of the questions now. So, yeah, we have covered most of the questions. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I'd request our HOD, Dr. Ashwini Kotrashetty, ma'am, to propose the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yeah.
In these unprecedented times when there's so much of uncertainty around us, and it's quite natural that one is anxious and restless. Mr. Ganapathy Venkatchalam has presented several possibilities and opportunities that we will be seeing in our near future, and has strengthened our hope of a very bright future. He has stressed upon the need for adaptability. Adapt to the new way we communicate, to the new ways in which we'll be learning, in which we will conduct our business, manufacturing, and everyday life. I'm sure this session has given a perspective to our participants, young and old included, which will surely help them in making some good decision making. On behalf of Don Bosco Institute of Technology, I wish to thank Mr. Ganapathy Venkatchalam for taking out his precious time and presenting this very informative session. A big thanks to Father Mario Vaz, our Executive Director, Dr. Krishnamurthy, our advisor, and our beloved principal and the pillar of our strength, Dr. Prasanna Nambiar, for all the support and encouragement they have extended. Special thanks to all the faculty and student team who have made this webinar possible. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us and joining us in this session today evening, and hope to see you very soon with our next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you all for being here. There's some final points that I'd like to add. A feedback form has been circulated on the WhatsApp groups. Kindly fill the form as soon as possible. And thanks again for joining us today. We will see you all next time.